Welcome to Brain Info Live, for everyone in the brain health community. Brain Info Live is about hope, health, support, education, and you. Whether you're living with Alzheimer's or a caregiver, family member, or loved one of someone who is, Brain Info Live is here for everybody.
All right. Hello. I'm Dr. Trin, Young Trin, Chief Medical Officer of Irvine Clinical Research. Welcome back to our 16th episode of Brain Info Live program here in Southern California. And today we have a very interesting and very important topic. We're going to talk about donating your brain donations. And we're going to talk about how brain donations are used and what are the amazing benefits of brain donations can have on for dementia and other types of research. So with that said, let's get a jump start on this episode with John Lewis, who's also known as J. Lou, the fitness guru from Atlanta, Georgia.
Hey, I'm J. Lou, your fitness guru. I want to welcome you to Brain Info Live. Today, I need you to bring your energy, get your dumbbells, cans, bottles, anything you want to use for resistance, and go get it, because we're going to do standing total body abs. So get ready in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. All right, I need them elbows up. We're going to do same arm, same leg, and just stay with me. And if you need to take a break, you can. Here we go. Let's go. Come on. 5. Let's rock. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's cross it. Let's go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's alternate. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Let's do both arms and alternate. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, wider. And I want this leg to cross over. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Switch. Let's go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. I want you to drive this arm and this leg. Let's go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Switch. Let's go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right. Bend your knees. Elbow up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 more. 6, 7, 8. Come on. 10. I'm with you. Let's go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Come on. 8, 9, 10. All right. Straight arm, straight leg. Let's go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's switch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, opposite arm, opposite leg. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Switch. Let's go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, I want you to crunch over and they short and quick. 1, 2, 3. Good. Now, arm over and go. Ready? Let's go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Great job. Let's go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, bend your knees. Crunch and up. Crunch, 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 crunch. place. Chest up. 5 more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Other side. 5. 5 more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Wider. Arms straight. Chest up. And let's go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Keep it going. Keep it going. Keep it going. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Good. Okay, bend your knees. We're going to start here in the pocket and you turn. Ready? Let's go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Come on. 7, 8, 9, 10. Other way. Let's go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Come on. 5, 6. Come on. 7, 8, 9, 10. We almost there. We almost there. Elbows up. Bend your knees and turn. You're almost like a robot. Don't move those legs. Come on. Hold your arms like you're hugging somebody. And rest. Now I'm going to bring them up at an angle. We almost finished. Let's go. Chest up. Come on. Keep it going. Keep it going. Good. Last one. Stay with me. Here we go. Set up in your knees. Overhand. Let's go. Boom. Rest. Great job. Great work. I'm J. Lou, and I want to say thank you, and see you later. Bye.
All right, that was amazing. Is it me, or does it look like J. Lou has more muscles every time I see him over the years? That's amazing. All right, we got some videos for you guys today about brain donations from both Turning Point and the Horizon 21 Consortium.
How can you ever prove that your test works, right? If doctors aren't very good at diagnosing Alzheimer's and you have a test that's going to diagnose Alzheimer's more accurately, how are you going to know that you were right?
The main way that we get the new brain imaging tests, the brain scans approved, is that people who are terminally ill undergo a brain scan, and then they donate their brain when they pass away. And we compare what we saw on the scan with what we see under the microscope. That's what the FDA requires to get the new Alzheimer's brain scans approved.
He made his decision with you?
Yes, 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 he had made that decision.
How long before he passed did he make that decision?
Oh, it was, I would say about 3 years.
3 years before?
Before he passed, 3 or 4 years before he passed. Yes, he was still, lucid, he was still lucid. When he still was verbal and he still could understand, Dr. Salloway approached him and he said, Jim, he said, I'd like you to help me and many other people. He said, would you consent to be an autopsied? So he kind of looked around and he said, why? Well, of course. He says, is it going to help my family? He says, not only your family, he says, it will help many people. Anything that we could do to help, yes. Anything that we could do.
Dr. Salloway looked straight at my mother and said, Olga, would you consider donating your brain for research? And I was taken aback and immediately teared up. And she said, but of course.
Oh, absolutely.
Why not? If it can help someone, what good is it going to do me? And I was just like shocked because she was just so responsive.
Olga, what's happening tomorrow?
Tomorrow's my birthday.
How old will you be?
102.
What we learned is that patients, and particularly their families, they want to give back. They want to do something. They don't just want to be victims of this disease. They want to fight it. And this is a way that they could do it, is by contributing to research.
We have something important to tell you.
Investigadores de toda Europa están trabajando juntos.
They want to find out more about dementia in people with Down syndrome.
Ce groupe s'appelle Horizon 21 pour travailler sur la trisomie 21.
Viele Menschen in ganz Europa sollen das gleiche Werkzeug benutzen, die Menschen dann zu erkennen. Dafür arbeitet die Gruppe zusammen.
Dette betyr at vi kan sammenligne informasjon fra forskjellige land i Europa.
Dit zal mij helpen de missie beter te begrijpen.
The consortium will find out what changes happen in the blood because of Alzheimer's disease in people with Down syndrome.
Hvilke endringer skjer i hjernen.
En waarom onze genes betrokken zijn bij de ziekte van Alzheimer.
This is really important to help us find out more about what causes dementia.
We need to include lots of people with Down syndrome.
Es muy importante que las personas con síndrome de Down sean incluidas en la investigación sobre la demencia.
En travaillant sur le groupe Horizon 21, nous travaillons ensemble pour en savoir plus sur la maladie d'Alzheimer.
This work will help us to find out how we might be able to stop dementia.
This is help make a difference to me.
To me.
For meg.
Für mich.
To me.
Para mí.
Pour moi.
To me.
For meg.
Wow, that really hits home to the difference that donating a brain can make to probably millions of lives around the world here. Okay, at this time, I would like to introduce everyone here to Dr. Lotta Granholm-Bentley, who is a professor in the Department of Neurosurgery at the University of Colorado Anschutz Medical Campus. She is originally from Sweden and has been working in the field of aging for more than 35 years. Her work is focused on neurodegenerative diseases in terms of early diagnosis and novel treatments. All right, welcome.
Thank you so much.
Good. Very good to have you here. And I'm excited to learn a lot more from you. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and the work that you do?
Sure, absolutely. So I've been working in the aging field for a long time. The reason is that we started when I was, I'm from Sweden, and I came over to Denver, Colorado in the 1980s, just a few years ago. And we started actually looking at some aged rats and compared the brains of aged rats to the brains of young rats. And we realized there were actually very specific differences that we could see. And then we moved on and started looking at their rat and mouse models for Alzheimer's disease. And at the time, there was a scientist here at CU, where I was to begin with, and her name was Linda Cernick, and she worked with Down syndrome. And she said, I see things with these mice that as they age that nobody has really looked at. Are you interested in looking at that? So I started working in my lab on the mouse models, and then also on human brain, and looking at brain samples and blood samples from people with Down syndrome of different ages. And this has now grown to an amazing research field, a very important research field that is recently recognized by Congress and by the NIH, and of course also by Bright Focus Foundation as important.
Absolutely. And so today we're talking about brain donations. And many of us have heard about organ donations, and you're donating a kidney or you're donating an organ, but not many of us have heard about donating your brain. So how's that different than a typical organ donation?
Yeah, that's a great question. I know that a lot of people are thinking about, and so am I, of donating their body, maybe, which includes the brain, to, for example, medical education. We know, for example, I've been a doctor's educator for many, many years, and we know that physicians become better physicians and more confident after working with actual human tissues. So they learn how muscles function, they learn what the brain looks like, they learn, the entire body by looking at the different anatomy, so to say. But if you donate your body, for example, for medical education, they will also look at your brain, and your brain will be part of what they're doing in medical school. That does not allow researchers to study the brain. So it's quite different. A brain donation means that you are designating your brain to be used specifically for research.
I see. So on my driver's license, I have this little, thing that says organ donor, and so I'm assuming that it includes donating my brain as well. But what you're saying is that doesn't necessarily go to research donation, right? For my brain, for somebody to study. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah, so it's interesting because on your driver's license, actually, if you are an organ donor, there's a small heart. And that means that if you are sort of legally dead and your brain has stopped to function, you agree to donate your heart, your kidney, your liver, and so on, retina, to somebody else, a recipient, somebody who has a liver disease or has a kidney disease. So that's quite different than the medical educational donation of the whole body. And actually, in that, on your license, brain donation is not included, which is kind of curious and interesting. But when I was the director for the brain bank in South Carolina for many years, and we worked with legislators there to be the first state that would have a small brain next to the heart on the license. And it was actually something that was quite on its way when I moved back here to Colorado. But it's quite different. So you actually have to take action in donating your brain. You have to talk to a brain bank, an Alzheimer's Association, for example, in whichever state you're living. Alzheimer's Association often know where the brain banks are located and if they are open for brain donations.
That's very interesting. I've never heard of a brain bank. That's very unique.
Yeah.
Do you use brain donations in your work currently?
Absolutely all the time, actually. And so what I'm interested in looking at is different, for example, lifestyles, the exercises we just looked at. How can that affect the brain? Can it prevent the brain, for example, from having Alzheimer pathology? And once you have a diagnosis for Alzheimer, can exercise or stress reduction or even therapy dogs and those kind of things, can they actually reduce or halt the progression of pathology in your brain? And even though we have these mouse models and rat models, they're really good initially, but you really have to look at the actual human brain to see if interventions are working and if your medication that you're taking, is it having effect? And also actually to provide an accurate diagnosis. Because for Alzheimer's disease, we have found that about 20 to 30% of patients that might die with the diagnosis of Alzheimer actually have something quite different. And sometimes it's something that's inheritable. And sometimes it's important for family members, children, and so on to know about an inheritable type of neurodegenerative disease. And you can only really accurately do that with a diagnosis after death of the brain tissue.
I see. So your brain bank is focused on Alzheimer's disease in persons with Down syndrome. How is that disease different in those with Down syndrome versus, the general population?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, it's interesting because, and we don't really know why it is. This is really why we're focusing our research on this now. We know that people with Down syndrome will get Alzheimer, almost 90% of them. And they will get Alzheimer maybe in their 30s and 40s, as early as that, but definitely when they're in their 50s, which is 20, 30 years earlier than people who have what we call sporadic Alzheimer in the general population. And the other interesting thing is also with the population with Down syndrome is that when they're born, we know they will have Alzheimer. So we are actually privy to, entering preventative measures. Maybe, we're working with Special Olympics, for example, to see if, somebody who has Down syndrome engaged in soccer or basketball or skiing, whatever it is, does that protect them or does it make Alzheimer come later? And so we do suspect, and we actually know that lifestyle affects, your lifestyle when you're young will affect what happens when you're old. We may not like it, but it's no good magic pill for Alzheimer. And so in people with Down syndrome, we're able to we can look at it over their lifetime and we can see if we put this preventative measure, what does that do? Because we also have new, available methods where we can measure Alzheimer pathology in blood samples too. So we can follow someone, 30 years.
Yes, we're doing those studies where we're collecting blood and looking at p-tau and amyloid and all that.
Yeah.
So I'm very impressed with what you're doing. So how long and how many times can a donated brain help in research?
Oh yeah, that's a great question too. We're studying brain tissue that we received maybe 20, 30 years ago. And so it's the reason why we have to go to specific brain banks that know how to do this. And they're actually, there's a nationwide network of brain banks that work together. We're all doing everything identical. And we are preserving the brain such that you only need tiny, tiny bits of brain tissue maybe to do your particular study. And then for the same brain, maybe there are 100 other researchers who can look at the brain, especially healthy brains, because most of the brains we get have some kind of condition, and having access to healthy brain tissue is unique. So the few control brains that we have go a long, long way in helping many, many researchers.
That's really great to know. Why is it important for diverse populations to participate in brain donation?
Yes, also another good question. Well, we know, for example, that people who are African Americans and people who are with a Hispanic background actually have higher rates of Alzheimer. And it's very sad, and also at an earlier age, maybe. In fact, in some populations of African Americans, for example, the rate or the prevalence or the sort of existence of Alzheimer might be 2.5 times higher than, for example, Caucasians. And we don't know why that is unless we can study it. And we realize it's a major commitment to donate the brain, but it will help, everyone. It will help generations to come.
Absolutely. Is there a qualification to donate a brain? Does your brain have to be healthy? Are there any restrictions to donate your brain?
No, in fact, what's interesting during the pandemic, we had issues because many, if people might have registered to be a brain donor, the autopsy suites at the hospitals were closed. Nothing, no patients could come in and no donations could happen. And we actually then started finding out that there were people with, for example, with Down syndrome had 10 times higher mortality for COVID. So we started actually working with specific hospitals that would allow autopsies. I work with a hospital in Sweden, for example. And so this allows us to study brains with COVID. And what we see is remarkable and quite different than what we see with other virus infections, for example. There's really no restrictions. The only restriction that we have, that we kind of have to have, is that from death, we need to have the brain within maybe 8 hours or so. But usually when you have an organized brain bank, that's very easily done. So we welcome any neurodegenerative conditions or healthy brains of all ages, of course. I'm a brain donor, but hopefully I can keep it a little longer.
I guess there's one restriction: you have to be dead. So
that's right.
So how do I know that there's a brain bank close to where I live? I mean, how does someone even find out?
It's actually very easy. You can actually Google it. So, for example, I know in California there are at least 3 different Alzheimer's centers that have brain donation. Irvine, for example, has one that I actually work really closely with, Dr. Liz Head. But you can simply Google brain bank and Los Angeles, for example. And there up pops very immediately in the search engine who to contact and who to talk to. And you can, although in most states in the United States, you actually have to have permission from the family. It's called a post-mortem consent, or a next of kin, the spouse or the child or whoever will have to consent for, but you can make your wishes known and you can register as a brain donor and you can say that this is my wish that I would like to do. I'd like to contribute forward, paying it forward, really.
I see. Is this 8-hour restriction nationwide? What if you live in a remote area and all that?
Yes, I understand. Yes. Yeah, I see the question in the chat room. No, sometimes we're actually, we can adjust that and work with people. But there are actually some funeral homes who can help with this. So we had during the pandemic, for example, we had 3 families that lived in Kansas that contacted us, and there was actually a person who would travel and would go to funeral homes and help with this. So it doesn't have to be at the hospital, but it's something, if a family member really wants to do this, there are ways around it. And it's just that we try to get the brain tissue in as soon as possible, because then that will benefit more researchers. Because then what we can do is actually study frozen tissue, and we can do DNA studies and RNA studies and those kind of studies. And then we can also do fixed tissue and study the nerve cells and other cells in the brain. So it's a more widely used if we can have a shorter time period.
I see. Very valuable information there. Thank you. If there was one thing that you could emphasize about brain donations that we may or may not have already talked about, what would that one thing be?
I think the one thing is, well, I could bake it into 2 quick things. The first of all is that we who are brain bank directors, we have looked at different religions, and there's really only one small fraction of Jewish or Orthodox Jewish people who do not approve of it, but all other religions that we have studied and are known to us will allow it. It's also true that you can have an open casket. You cannot see if a person have donated their brain. It's not obvious in any way. Everything looks intact. And it's an amazing way to actually allow your brain to be studied by scientists. You're paying it forward and you're helping generations of other patients. And maybe your brain will contribute to solve Alzheimer's disease. Your brain could be used to get the Nobel Prize in medicine and help people's suffering, to stop.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Very valuable information. This is a topic that is not commonly talked about, but we definitely need to highlight the importance of this. And I appreciate you coming on today to explain it to our our listeners here. Thank you so much.
Of course.
And I'm going to have to go around and see if I can sign up myself with that. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Again.
I would do it. I would do it. Thank you very much. And good luck to everyone. And you can reach us probably through UC Irvine if you would like information.
Sounds great. Have a great day. Thank you so much again.
Yes,
all
thank
right.
you too.
That was very important information, everyone. And so let's conduct a little poll to see what we have learned today. And we're going to pull up the poll for you guys here. And we will have resources with UC Irvine that we can send you to as far as brain donations as well. Okay, here it is, guys. True or false? Brain donation is the same as other organ donations. What do you guys think? True or false? Brain donation is the same as other organ donations. What do you guys think? Put in the answers. Let us know. Okay. Is brain donation the same as other organ donations or not? True or false? All right. Smart folks here. 100% false. Yes. Unlike other organ donations, the purpose of brain donation is for diagnosis and research. Diagnosis is really important to benefit the family, and research helps us move toward a cure. And that's to benefit everyone else. So awesome. Okay, we got some national and local resources that we're going to share with you. These resources, along with others, will be emailed to everyone who has signed up for today's program. And if you haven't signed up yet to receive our Brain Info Live emails, you can do so by going to this website here. Grab a pen, piece of paper, and write down the website link here. It's https://bit.ly/BIL sign up. All right, so that is the link to get on our email list. And in closing, I want to thank everyone. I want to thank Dr. Lotta, John Lewis, of course, and you, the viewers. So have a great day or night whenever you're listening to this. Take care now.